This is Matt Lockwood.
Jack of all trades, master at none. Stopped me moving from Orient. You know, he wanted too much money for me. The price he put on my head was way too high. No one was going to pay that. Basically, once you're past your sell-by date, they couldn't care less. Where we went, we actually were on holiday at the same resort as Peter Crouch. Yeah, but Pete and Abby were there and they were brilliant. We spent a lot of time with them. I wouldn't have elbowed you in the face because I wouldn't have been able to reach, but I've been able to kick you in the shins. As a kid, I was a glory hunter. Educate the younger sort of generation. They don't listen. There's some really good agents out there. There's some really bad ones. I'm really glad I met that guy and I'm really glad I listened. The PFA are brilliant. A lot of respect for them. They've helped me in my career. Team A, you won't really play Team B and you'll play every week, but you're going to get half the money from Team A. My advice would be go to Team A. Don't worry about playing. Just earn as much money as you can. And 90 minutes away from playing them. It's a load of rubbish, but it's a good argument.
Yes! Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are listening from. This is another episode of the Footy Forum and another +1 episode. We're really excited to have a guest on, and this is Matt Lockwood. Matt, how are you doing?
All good, yourselves?
Good, not bad.
Not too bad. Just as you were saying that, I was thinking we have another guest and another English accent to go against. So it's 3-on-1 again with the accents. Yeah, there we go. Matt, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to have another exciting guest episode. We've had a lot of them of late, so they keep coming on and they keep hopefully coming thick and fast even more and more. Dan, what's going on?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. How are you guys?
Not bad. Yeah, it's a bit of an international episode today. We got Scotland, England, and Canada representing today. Exciting. Okay, so Matt, if you're ready, I think we'll just dive into some icebreaker questions just to start us off, just people get a gist. So we'll go with some really brief ones first. So how old are you?
I am 44 years old.
44 years young.
Wouldn't have said that. Would not have said that.
Lovely, yeah. Looking mid-30s for anyone listening on audio. Definitely not in the 40s. Right, so who do you support? Who's your football club?
So I support Liverpool. I think as a kid, I was a glory hunter. So when I was, 6, 7, 8 growing up and getting into football, they were winning everything at the time. They had Kenny Dalglish, Ian Rush, Alan Hansen, all those guys. And I must have been a glory hunter. Living in Essex and supporting Liverpool, yeah, really didn't really sort of add up. But they were my team. Obviously, I supported my local team, which was Southend United. I used to go and watch those guys play at home every week with my dad. But they were rubbish. So Liverpool were my team.
Lovely. I'll give you credit for two things. A, owning it and coming out and saying, you know what, I was a glory hunter, fair play. And also B, yes, at the time, but you've stuck with the team, right, through the ups and downs nowadays. So credit to you for that.
Yeah, you're getting paid dividends now.
Yeah, it's one of those where obviously when you play football for a living, you don't tend to sort of, I wasn't necessarily following Liverpool at the time. We did have, when I was at Nottingham Forest, we were in the FA Cup and we had a replay against Leyton. And the draw had already been made, and the winners were going to be playing at home to Liverpool, and we ended up losing. So we didn't play against them. So that would have been great. But it's what it's like when you play for a living, you tend to sort of look out for your friends' results more than the team you used to support. So I would, after the game, on the coach on the way home or wherever you were travelling, I would always get the results up, and I would look at teammates, ex-teammates, and see how they got on, and then you'd have a little look at Liverpool maybe at the end.
Yeah, I guess it's hard as well because you have to be supportive of the club you're playing for, right? You're getting paid to pay for that club, so it doesn't matter who you're coming up against, who you're playing for. You have to be, supporting the team that you're wanting to win, because that's why you're being paid at the end of the day. Did you ever go up against Liverpool?
I never did. Never played against them. That was the closest I got. Because obviously I didn't play in the top flight. I played sort of League One, League Two stuff. So when you're a lower league player, you just pray that you get through to the third round of the FA Cup and draw a big team. And unfortunately, that was the closest I ever got. 90 minutes away from playing them, but it wasn't to be. We ended up losing, and Luton went and played them. I think, if memory serves me right, I don't know whether you guys would have seen it, but that was when Alonso scored at Luton.
Yeah.
from like his own half. The
Oh
goalkeeper
my
was out
God,
of his
yeah.
goal.
Crazy.
Very famous
Hit a long
goal.
ranger.
So that would have been you.
So,
Is that what you're saying? That would have been you in that round? If
yeah,
you
yeah. I'd have had,
Oh, wow.
I'd have had rings run around me from Alonso and such.
Crazy.
Yeah, but
That's
again,
mental.
that summer. Yeah, no, that summer, we ended up, my wife and I, we got married that summer, and then we had our honeymoon. And where we went, we actually were on holiday at the same resort as Peter Crouch and his wife. So I was telling him, I was gutted I could have played against you. I said I wouldn't have elbowed you in the face because I wouldn't have been able to reach, but I've been able to kick you in the shins.
Maybe a bit of a low blow.
Yeah, exactly. But it's impossible with him. He's so tall, isn't he? So, but Crouch. So yeah, we had a good holiday with those guys.
Yeah, shout out Peter Crouch. He's got an amazing podcast of his own with BBC.
Fantastic podcast.
Amazing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Where was that honeymoon? Where'd you say you went?
We went to St. Bart's in the Caribbean. So
wow.
yeah, it was lovely, absolutely fantastic time. So yeah, but Pete and Abby were there and they were brilliant. We spent a lot of time with them over the week. They were there with us. So yeah, brilliant couple, and you can see why he's doing so well with his podcast and all the sort of TV shows he's doing and presenting and things like that. He's one of football's good guys.
Yeah, he's just a genuine
100%.
guy, right? He just like he it's not like he needs the fame. He just enjoys being him, and he's famous for that, right?
Exactly. That is exactly right. He doesn't try and be anything he's not. He, he's just a lovely, lovely lad. And you can see that because everyone who talks about him always speaks about him in such high regard. And they always say, oh, he's good fun and he's this and that. And yeah, we had a good week with them. And it was interesting, put it that way.
Lovely. That sounds an interesting story. Okay, so next question. So obviously you're still involved in the football world and we'll talk plenty about that. But, if you weren't into football, weren't in the football world right now, what do you think you'd be doing? Is there anything on the side, any skills you had growing up that you may have pursued otherwise?
I'm one of these guys that I'm jack of all trades, master at none. I'm a scratch golfer, but I was never good enough to make it as a pro. When I was younger, I was asked to give up football and play tennis not for a living, but to go and try and become a county player and a national player on tennis, which I didn't want to do because I wanted to play football. I was an excellent swimmer. Basically, you give me a racket or a club or any sport and I'll be half decent at it. I've never played cricket, but then when I was at Leyton Orient, we had a cricket day and I had to retire because they couldn't get me out. I was like smashing the ball all over the place. It's just one of those. But at school, I think, when I was at school, I did okay at school. I was quite bright and stuff like that. And my teachers were begging me to stay on and to do my A-levels and to go on to university. But when you're 16 and you've got a professional football career sort of like being dangled in front of you as a carrot, and and at the end of the day, the football wasn't guaranteed, but I was like, I've got to go and explore that. And yes, football might well have still been there when I was 18 or 21, and you do see players coming into the game late, but that wasn't for me. I wanted to go and leave school and do it straight away, and that's what I did. So I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't played football. Now I suppose I'm doing it now. So you just sort of think outside the box. So yeah. Again, you things that are related to what you love. So it's all sport related for me. So whether it's working for, Puma or doing the football agency or, I run a golf holiday company as well, organising golf tours to Scotland. It's all around sports that I enjoy and that I'm good at. So that's probably what it would have been.
Would you say that you have an entrepreneurial gene to you? Because for me, what I'd say, obviously, knowing you a little bit before this podcast, you seem to have that kind of opportunistic or entrepreneurial maybe mindset in terms of, you don't hear too much about what footballers do after their careers, but obviously, it's interesting getting to hear what you've been up to, and you've definitely taken the initiative and staying very connected in football and just other avenues.
Yeah, I suppose. Obviously, you and I, we've probably been in touch for a few years now, haven't we? So, what I like to do is I like to, if someone comes to me and says, "Oh, Matt, can you help with this?" or "Matt, do you know anyone?" I always say yes. Whether I know or not is irrelevant. If I don't know, I'll go and find out, or I'll go and work out how to solve the issue. I like to be sort of challenged. I like different things. So if, for instance, someone comes to me and says, oh, Matt, we've got this property development, can you find some investors for it? I'll be like, yeah, I'll have a look, and then I'll learn exactly how the project works, and I'll need to know the ins and outs, because if I'm going to a property developer or an investor who invests in property deals all their life, I don't want to look stupid. So I don't want to sit there and be like, oh yeah, you can invest in, when he asks a question and I don't know the answer to it, because ultimately I don't want to look like a stupid ex-footballer who's just, just sort of dabbling in that sort of stuff. So whether it's property developing or raising money for different projects, or setting up a football agency, whatever it is, I like to throw myself in sort of in the deep end. I need to learn everything. I need to know everything, so that when it comes to the crunch and you're talking to people that are more experienced than you, then you can hold your own, and you don't sound like an idiot, pretty much.
Exactly, and that willingness to learn is what is the only way to become a jack of all trades, right?
This is it, and that's the thing. So with my job at Puma, and I know we'll probably speak about that later, but my boss openly said to me that when I went for the interview, he was looking for someone that had worked in the industry before. He wanted someone from a different brand to just come on board, so they would just move in seamlessly. And I said, well, look, I haven't done that, but I've got transferable skills. I'm a hard worker, and I'll learn. And then once I've learned how to do the job, I've then got the links that they will never have, because I've had a 22-year playing career. So I can open up doors to chief execs who know who I am, who will, who respect me, who like me, who will then, come and do business with me because of who I am, not because, I used to maybe work for, Under Armour or New Balance or whoever. And that's proved, because one of the first clubs that I brought on board when I started working for Puma was a pro club in Scotland, and the chief exec there was my chief exec at Dundee, and I was friends with him, and my wife and I, we've socialised with him and his wife. So that opened the door because of my previous career, not because I used to work for a different brand. And now I've been doing it for over 2 years. I know everything I need to know anyway, so I can do the job, but probably better than anyone, at other brands anyway.
Very well said. A couple of things I picked up, which I just want to go back to. You talked about some players who come into the game late, and I just want to shout out Mikel Antonio, because I think he came into the game very late. His story is really interesting, and he's done amazingly, being a very good striker in the Premier League. I don't think he gets enough credit, and I think he's underrated as a player. So I just wanted to shout him out. And yeah, I mean, the ventures footballers do, like after they play, is really interesting. You got Agbon Lahore, doing fashion, going on Talk Sport a bit, and you've like Jermaine Beckford, obviously an ex-Leeds player. He has a ton of ventures on the side. He still works with the club, but he started like a fitness health thing, brand on the side. So it's really interesting what footballers do when they're done with their careers.
And normally 9 times out of 10, it's the people that you meet on the journey in your career will then sort of help you later on in life, because ultimately, we've played football. We left school at 16 with no qualifications, or GCSEs or whatever the qualifications were you took, and then you're in this bubble for however long you're in there, where you get told what to wear, where to be, what to eat, what time you need to wake up, what time you need to go to sleep. You get told everything. You turn up at your training ground, your kit's all there for you. You don't know where it comes from. Obviously now I know, but everything is just done for you. You're so pampered, and then when you have to finish and you go into the big wide world, you do need help. And then these guys do meet people along the way that have their own clothing brand and do everything. And sometimes these guys will look at a footballer and think, right, I can use these guys because they've got a big social media following. We can promote it really well and use their name to generate sales or whatever it is to be successful. And these lads, like I say, they have got transferable skills. They are good at talking to people and sort of socializing and networking and things like that. So for me, I don't think the players get as much help as they sort of maybe should. But there are so many talented boys out there that can go on and be really, really successful after their careers. It's just given, just being able to give them the right platform to do it. And if they've got a genuine interest in it, then they'll give it 100%, just like they did on the football pitch. Because you can imagine someone like Jermaine Beckford, how how talented he was as a player, but how hard he worked to get to where he got to. Same with all of us. We all worked hard, and we all sort of, maybe didn't reach our full potential, but it wasn't through a lack of effort, a lack of trying. That's for sure. So when you then put those attributes into the sort of like the real world and the job aspect, where you're not relying on not being injured, or relying on a manager not getting sacked, or someone can afford you, or someone paying you more money, where it is just it's fair as fair, then these boys will be successful, and you can see why these lads are doing well at what they do.
Yeah, and it's just about putting a bit of money aside and being smart about it, so that when you get to the point where you want to make a shift in your career, you just have to think about I've got some money here, what do I want to do? And you have a bit of a head start, obviously, with networks and with a bit of cash to the side. So I think some people are doing well to take advantage of that.
So let's talk a little more about the transition, because you said you live in that bubble, and I think it's a really interesting way you phrase that, in terms of everything more or less is in it is, you could say, you get the sport. And is it for you? How was the transition after you finally stopped playing football? Was it tough? I mean, mentally, I could imagine that you have to accept all these things that maybe you didn't expect, or maybe was it something that you kind of seen 2-3 years before you stopped playing?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was always coming, wasn't it? I was 38 when I stopped playing, so I knew not my legs were giving up, because they weren't. I could have carried on playing, but I knew managers would look at it and be like, "Oh, Matt's a bit old now. We can bring in younger players." And it wasn't as though they could bring in younger players on less money, because I was on, I wasn't on big money at the end of my career anyway. I was sort of playing because I just loved the sport and I wanted to play for as long as possible. But I think for me, I knew the end was coming when I came up to Scotland, when I was 34, when I signed for Dundee. And that's why when I first came here, I set up a golf business. I thought, right, well, that's fine. That can tick along and make money. So obviously I was doing the commentating anyway. I mean, I've been doing that for 8 years, and that wasn't anything that was going to sort of pay the bills, but it keeps you involved in the game and in front of people, and you sort of keeps you relevant, I suppose, in a certain way. But I love it. At the end of the day, you to watch Premier League football matches and you're commentating on them. It's great. Who wouldn't like doing that? I'd love to have stayed in the game from a coaching and management point of view, but the financial aspect just wouldn't allow me to do that. I couldn't afford to go and start at the bottom and be on, 10, 15 grand a year being a youth team coach at a club. I just couldn't do that, because you've got children, you've got commitments that you need to stick to. So that wasn't an option. So it sort of limited me from that aspect. But again, I was quite sensible when I played. I saved my money. I invested in property. So then you've got that to fall back on. So the sort of the period of transition between ending your career to then starting something else and building the wages up from that aspect, you've got something to fall back on. And I say that to the boys, the lads I deal with, really sort of concentrate on what you're going to do afterwards, because your career does fly by. And I was actually chatting to one of my ex-teammates last night, and we were talking and saying, for what we all have done, I wish I'd have done it more, like the investment side of things, like the property side of stuff. I'm a scratch golfer, and I spent a lot of time on the golf course. I wish I'd have spent more time trailing through sort of like estate agents and going and buying rundown properties and doing them up and keeping them. And I'd be multi-millionaire now if I'd have done them what I know now. I'd probably have a portfolio like Robbie Fowler. But you don't know at the time, and I wasn't advised properly. I didn't have the right people around me to give me that sort of advice and to make me do it. But now that's why I'm trying to sort of educate the younger sort of generation. They don't listen. They think they've ages ago, and they think they'll make millions of pounds, which they hopefully will do. But even if they do, to have everything sorted for when you retire, so then you haven't got that pressure. Because I pressure all the time. I've got a wife and 2 children to feed, and their schooling and everything that comes in as a package. Every night you go to sleep and you're worrying about things. Where when you were a footballer, it was just so easy. yeah, you had the pressure of going out and performing and playing well. And obviously for me, playing in the lower leagues, I was trying to play as well as I could so I could get a move to the Premier League, which obviously never came about. But, now it's a different sort of pressure.
So do you think there's now like more support that needs to be given to players after they retire? And if so, like, where do you think that support needs to come from? Do you think it needs to come from internally within the club or external sources?
It'll be external sources. Basically, once you're past your sell-by date, they couldn't care less whether you're homeless or unemployed. They literally care. And that's the truth of it. Football is a ruthless business. It's all about the here and now. And like you see guys that are playing. I mean, I was at Leyton Orient for 9 years. And don't get me wrong, if I ever go back to Orient, I mean, it's 400 miles away for me to go back there. But if I ever go back there, I'd get a hero's welcome. Everyone would be so pleased to see me. But if I can't pay my mortgage this month, if I ring Leyton Orient, will they say, "Oh, well, you played for us for 9 years? Yeah, we'll give you some money to that." They won't, and you wouldn't expect them to. And football is like that. So once you're done, you're done. No one really cares about you. I mean, it goes to show. So with my social media account, I never set up a social media account when I was playing. I didn't want to. I was quite a private person, and I still am to a certain extent. I set up social media once I'd finished, and I've got hardly any followers. No one cares. Your last year's sort of news, 5, 10, 20 years ago, whatever. No one cares. They're looking about now and the current crop of players. So what I say to players at the moment is, utilize what you've got and the reach you have and the access you've got to these media platforms. Build up a sort of like a following. Make sure what you post is good. You don't do anything daft where you're going to get yourself into trouble, because when you retire, then you can fall back on that and use it and to your advantage. Because ultimately, if say Jermaine Beckford with his clothing brand or whatever he's doing, if he's got 30,000 people following him on Instagram and he puts a post on saying, "Oh, look at this jumper, you can buy it, here's the link," chances are, even if like 1% of his followers go and buy something, that's good. Where if I do that and I get 1% of 1,000 people following me, it's not as good. So, you as a player, you sort of have to appreciate you are sort of like a brand, and you need to take full advantage of that. But there are external companies now that are helping people that want to. Ultimately, they're probably going to footballers because they think they can make money off the back of them. But they are doing it to advise these lads, and some of the boys listen, some don't. And they think they know best, and they're young and they're earning decent money. But the ones that do listen and put the plans together now for later in life, they're the ones that will benefit, and they'll be sort of not laughing all the way to the bank, but they'll be the ones that will look back and go, "Bloody hell, I'm really glad I met that guy, and I'm really glad I listened."
Yeah, and I mean, we're having that struggle a bit, on the podcast, because obviously we're not brands ourselves, so we have like a ton of followers that we can just go, "Oh, by the way, we've got this new podcast." So it's always a challenge, get the word out. So they definitely have to utilize the fact that they already have big followings, when their careers are done. But I mean, just kind of to build on Dan's question, just two kind of questions tied into one. I mean, do you think it's more needs to be done to give these young players the right support and the right mentorship to help them manage the fame / money more, or is it just a fact that they're young and immature and there's nothing you can really do? Some just don't listen. And then also, do you think there should be like a cap on, let's say, under 21s on how much they can earn, because they get more money than sense that they have just because of their age? It's not their fault of their own, but they get more money than sense, and it becomes difficult to manage that, and they spend it on things they not necessarily should, and things like that. So do you think they should introduce some sort of cap, and then it makes it, because teams just offer a young kid 100 grand a year, and it's insane what they're on. There should be a cap where a kid can just focus on developing his football rather than who's going to give me the most money. And you see a lot of kids that actually their career takes a turn for the worse because they took on the money instead of focusing on their actual career in football.
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, that is, and it's a topic that obviously people do say about sort of salary caps. For me, I don't think there should be a cap. I think a footballer's career or any sportsman's career is short, and you need to earn as much money as you possibly can in that time. So if I'm a 20-year-old and the club's going to offer me 100 grand a week, I'm going to that club, whether I play for them or not. You've got to, really, because you could get injured tomorrow and you might never play again, and that will set you up. What they could possibly do is say to them, right, we'll give you 100 grand a week, but 75% of that is going into a trust or something that you can't touch, that will be there for life after football, or it goes to your parents, or so they can't physically spend it. Maybe, I don't know.
That's a fantastic solution. I've never thought of that. That's great.
But it's but would the player then turn around and say, "Well, I'm earning that. It's my money. I want." It's difficult. But if these kids have got the right advisors around them, and they've all got agents, and there are some really good agents out there. There are some really bad ones that are just in it for the money and want to try and sort of earn as much off their players as they possibly can. They don't really care about them. But that's a tough one. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. I just think these young lads just do need to listen to the right people. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they're lucky. Others, just get in with the wrong crowd. They trust the wrong people, it's a shame, but there's not really anything around that. Obviously, I don't like to see players get into gambling problems and stuff like that, but again, it's there. And I know, having worked for a bookmaker, one of the biggest in the world, I do know that they do have a care for their clients. They want to know where these people get their money from and how much they earn, and can they afford to lose that. They have got a duty of care for their sort of clients. But obviously, what you were saying about the education side of things and helping players, the PFA are brilliant. The PFA is a huge organisation in England. Obviously, we've got PFA in Scotland as well, which isn't as big, and they haven't got the sort of the same finances behind them. But the PFA do try and help players. They actively go into clubs. They speak to them on a regular basis to say, look, please take this course, educate yourselves, prepare for the future. They can only do so much. I suppose it's, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink it. And you can't physically make these kids go and do a course, or go and, invest in that or save. It's so difficult. And there's 3,000 players in the UK. And it's hard. It is hard, but the PFA is great. I've got a lot of respect for them. They've helped me in my career. But it is, I suppose, in anything, it all comes down to the individual. And if the individual will listen and they're willing to sort of open up their horizons and look at the future, then that you can help them. But the boys that won't listen, you can bang your head against a brick wall all day long. will not do it, and they'll only realise that they should have done it when it's too late. A little bit like I said yesterday, when I'm talking to my ex-teammate, I should have done that, but I didn't. So they'll learn the hard way.
No one to blame but yourself, right?
As long as I'm the only one to blame, then I can deal with that. If there's other people, it's like, it's their fault. They've ruined my career, or I turn around and I look at when I was at Leyton Orient. Barry Hearn was the chairman at the time. Brilliant guy. I love Barry. He's a fantastic person. A great businessman. What those guys are doing with boxing and snooker and darts is just off the charts. But Barry stopped me moving from Orient. He wanted too much money for me. When big clubs were coming in for me, Barry the price he put on my head was way too high. No one was going to pay that. So I could look at it and say, well, Barry maybe stopped my career, getting the move that I was desperate for and that I thought I deserved. Mm-hmm. He would look at it and be like, well, you signed the contract. You were happy with the wages I was paying you. I can ask for whatever I want for you. And it's fine. What he's saying is completely right, because he offered me a 4-year contract on good money. I signed it. So, then that's my fault. I should have said, no, I'll just have a year's contract and I'll just leave next summer. But I wanted the security. So it works both ways. So it's, I don't think there's an answer for any of this. But, just as long as there's people out there trying to help, then the lads that want to listen will definitely listen.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, people forget football, obviously it's people's livelihood, but football is a business, right? At the end of the day. So, sometimes they're going to accept an offer from a team and you have to go live out there. That's what comes with the high wages, If you sign for a new club and the team have agreed for a fee, you have to go there. That's just how it works. And equally so, if a club want to put a certain price on your head and aren't willing to budge on that, you have to accept that you may not go to another club when you want to. It is a business at the end of the day, right?
100%, without a shadow of a doubt. And I look at it now, and I advise players when they ask for my advice. And one of the things I say to them is, and this will probably sound a little bit negative and I suppose old because I've retired, but when you retire, a bank manager does not care that you played 600 games in your career. He cares how many zeros you've got in your bank account. So for me, I played probably about 650 games. I wish I'd have played 150 and have 10 million quid sat in the bank. You know what I mean? I would, for my life now, that would be much better. But as a player, you just want to play you want to play all the time. You want to play as many games as possible. So I suppose if you've got a decision to sign for Team A, where you'll be, on the bench and you won't really play, you might play cup matches, or Team B, and you'll play every week, but you're going to get half the money from Team A, where would you go? Most players maybe would go to Team B because they want to play. I get that. I was when I played. But my advice would be go to Team A. Don't worry about playing. Just earn as much money as you can. And that's horrible. It's because that's not what football should be about. Football should be about going and playing and enjoying yourself and trying to be the best you can be. But ultimately, I know what's in the future, and I know how difficult life is when you retire, and you've got a lot longer. Your retired life is a lot longer than your playing career. So it's a tricky one. It is a tricky one. So for me, earning 100 grand a week, I'm pleased for that. I think fair play. If the club's willing to pay them that amount of money, go and sign it and put it away.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting when you bring it up, because it's a frustration for a lot of fans when they see some players that head over east to China or to sometimes the MLS. But I think you have to look at it in terms of, when they're playing in some leagues that maybe they're not playing in the UK, maybe they're playing, Eastern Europe, Southern Europe. For them, that move to China, well, maybe for their development, it halts it a little bit, or it's going to be a little bit complacent financially. And I think it pays dividends in the future. So yeah, it's an interesting one, right? It just kind of shows that in the end of the day, one thing really talks. And while we wish, that it was all about, the 10 years career and, making it to the top leagues or whatever. I think you got to look at it, as you said, financially. Maybe those players don't get that advice. And I think from what you're saying, it sounds to me like it's maybe a little bit of the responsibility on the agency, the PFA, obviously, but the PFA, you mentioned how many players they have to look over. So I think maybe it is a fact that the agency is kind of working with players all the time on that, but, it's interesting for me, for sure.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think of Hulk, the first player that comes to mind. Do you remember Hulk? He played, I think, in Russia, and he was a feature in like the Champions League and stuff. He was a beast. Then he got into his 30s and he decided to take a huge contract in China, and he kind of fizzled out in terms of, people talking about him in Europe. But, at the end of the day, he made a decision that, he wanted the money at that point, and, fair play to him, as you just said.
Yeah, you have to ask yourself, what would you do?
Yeah, exactly. And he set up his family's future, his kids, their kids, he's gonna have enough of an estate that he can leave them that don't, probably never have to work again, which ultimately, is that not what we're all sort of like, trying to do? I suppose, I don't know whether if you guys have got kids, but, I've got two girls, and I know they're going to depend on me, and I want to be able to provide for them. And if I had to go over to China for 2 years to go and earn stupid money, I'd be on the next flight out there. But I think that's probably a lower league player talking. Where if you talk to a Premier League player, like, say for instance, we talked about Harry Kane, right? Harry Kane is a multimillionaire. It's irrelevant. He's earning enough money. He can stay at Tottenham his whole career and he'll be absolutely fine. He doesn't need to move to a Manchester City or a Barcelona or a Real Madrid to earn more money. He is all about winning things now, isn't it? If that's what drives him on, if he wants to be, win the World Cup for England, if he wants to go and win the Champions League, win the league, he will have to leave Tottenham to do that, because Tottenham are a great team. I really like Tottenham. They're probably my favourite team away from Liverpool. But they won't be able to win the league I don't think in his sort of like time lapse, time frame. So does he go or does he stay? Because that would be a football decision, because that's not based on money, because he doesn't need the money. All the top guys in the world, they're in the luxurious position to make decisions based purely on football. And it'd be interesting to see what he does. But lower league players, their decisions are always based around money. Has to be, because they're gonna have that transition period like I've been through, where it is tough.
100%. Yeah. So all good points. What's your thoughts on this year's Premier League? It's obviously very different this year with the pandemic, no fans, the kind of tight schedule, teams playing all different numbers of games getting cancelled, postponed. It's been quite a crazy year, and we're seeing quite a crazy race at the top and a battle at the bottom as well. So, I mean, just to get your thoughts on, how you think the season's been going, who you think may win, etc.
I mean, the season is mental. Just having no fans is bizarre. Obviously, as you guys know, I commentate for the BBC. So we cover, I was for BBC London, so we cover London teams. So, when I now go to games, and again, I'm not doing many games at the moment, because I should have been doing Newcastle v Crystal Palace tonight, because living in Edinburgh, Newcastle's only, an hour and a half on the train. But we're not allowed to go. They just take the commentary from the local radio station now. They're just trying to minimise as fewer people to come into grounds as possible. But the games I have done, it's just so weird. It's like a practice match. When you train on the pitch, and it's just really, really bizarre. So I think the results wouldn't change necessarily too much. I think home advantage probably isn't as much of an advantage, because when you go to a Newcastle or a Liverpool, where you've got your huge passionate fans, like really driving you on, I think sometimes maybe Liverpool would score a goal in the last 10 minutes with the cop, like they say, sucking the ball into the goal, where now they haven't got that to give them extra impetus to push on. So it is, I think that is a leveler, but I think this season's brilliant. Like in regards to, anyone looks like they could win the league. Obviously you've got Man City that are flying at the moment. Obviously Liverpool are struggling with injuries and whatnot, but they're still there or thereabouts. Obviously United, having signed Fernandes last year, he seems to have sort of turned them around completely, and now they're up there, even though I don't think they sort of play well enough to be up there. It's weird. You've got Leicester that have been flying, and obviously I know they lost the other night, but Spurs. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you've got all these teams that are sort of in the mix, where I think it just makes it more interesting for the neutral and for the football fan. Where last year, it was great, and it was really interesting to watch Liverpool walk away with the league. But it's a little bit like where you've got one team just so far ahead, it's sort of boring for the rest. Yeah. This year, where anything happen, and don't get me wrong, I think Man City will win it. I think they will sort of like pull away now from the rest. I mean, I think the bottom of the table, I think the three that are bottom now, I think they will go down. I think, West Brom, Fulham and Sheffield United will be the ones to go down. I know Big Sam has made 5 new signings, didn't he, in the transfer window there at West Brom.
Busy.
But I just think the gap is, I don't know, is too big. Hopefully I'm wrong. It'd be good to see them sort of climb out of it. But it'll be tough. But no, it's interesting. I think this year will throw up definitely a few surprises. But for me, Man City will win it.
So you don't think Sheffield United will stay up?
No, I think they'll go.
See, Morgan, we're all trying to tell you. Morgan thinks they're going to stay up. Please talk some sense into him.
You're asking that question like it's a clear question. It's obviously clear the other way.
Can I defend myself? Okay.
Go on, Morgan.
Here's what I'm saying.
What's your reasons?
And some of my reasons are big ifs, which obviously isn't a definitive reason. But I'm just saying they play Fulham and West Brom very soon. You can see them winning both those games. Remember, Sheffield United this season, they've been in games all season long. They have been in games. They're not getting blown out like West Brom and sometimes Fulham are. they're in games. It's just they're struggling to score and get results, and that's why they're not even drawing. They keep losing by it's their 1-goal differences, and they just don't have that slight edge that they had against Man United this season. But hopefully, their recent wins in the cup and obviously the big win in the league is going to kind of tick something that kind of wakes them up a bit. And if they get 6 points against Fulham and West Brom, as I said, they got 2 games coming up that they have to win, they're right back in that pack. And then it's just a matter of chasing the teams outside. Now, Brighton this is a different conversation.
Okay, wait. Before we go into Brighton, are you when you tell us that question, are you being serious? Because okay, they can get 6 points against those games, but they still have to win another 6 games.
Yeah,
they have less than 20 games left in the season. I don't understand how you.
What I'm saying is, what if they win and they have to get 6 points from those games. That's a non-negotiable. But once they do, they're right in that pack of teams. They're ahead of West Brom, and I think they're either level or above Fulham as well. So what I'm saying, out of those 3 teams, who I think are most likely to pick up, not saying definitely, but who I see as most likely to pick up enough points, especially if they go on a good run between then and the end of the season, for me, that's Sheffield United. I think they can do it. And then obviously, and my second part of the point was, you have to look at the teams just outside because that's who you're chasing, right? So
of course, you're not chasing West Brom.
The boys laugh at me, but I'd say Brighton are having a tough season, but they remind me of Aston Villa last year in terms of they're a good young side. They've got some good players, but they just need a bit more time and a bit more patience for things to start clicking. Again, they're a team that are playing well, but for me, just aren't getting the results and a lot of draws, things like that. And my argument was next season, if Brighton hold on to all their good young players, Ben White, for example, and they're able to make some good signings like Villa did, in the summer, they could, do what Aston Villa are doing this season and start competing for the top half. That was my argument. The boys think I'm crazy. They think Brighton may go down, but that's just my argument. And then you look at Newcastle, right? For me, Newcastle, the way they approach a game is terrible. I don't think they work hard enough on the pitch. They're very lackadaisical. And I think their approach of the way they defend, even though they're organised, it's just as soon as they concede, they're in trouble. And going forward, apart from Callum Wilson, a bit of brilliance, they offer absolutely nothing apart from praying for like a penalty with VAR or a corner or something like that. And I don't think that's a strategy for success in the Premier League. So I think Newcastle would be the team to drop in if Sheffield United pick up enough points. Obviously, they got a good win against Everton. So that's my argument. Matt, feel free to respond to that.
No, but it's a good argument. It's a load of rubbish, but it's a good argument.
Yes!
I've got the facts right. I've got the league table in front of me. They're 13 points behind Brighton.
There we go.
That's 5 wins without Brighton picking up another point.
Any points, yes.
Yeah.
For them to become level. Bearing in mind, they've only won 2 games all season.
What about Newcastle? How far are they behind Newcastle?
Newcastle are 1 point ahead of Brighton, so they're on 22 points. I just think with the games coming so often, where they're playing 2 games a week, some squad of Sheffield United's size, they haven't got the strength in depth that other teams have. And I'm not saying that the teams around about them haven't, but if they pick up a few injuries, and like you say, the goal scoring aspect is huge. And none of their strikers are goals. McGoldrick's not scoring, McBurney's not scoring, Sharp scores a few, but that's where you're going to win games. And I think, they will pick points up. Like you say, they beat Man United, and they will be able to, because they are a good team. And last year they proved that. But I just think it's just such a big ask to go on that much of a run that they need. And I think you're right. I think they could easily beat Fulham and West Brom. But that's 6 points. But then if Brighton are playing Fulham and West Brom and take 6 points off them, then that pushes them up. I know 100%. It's a long shot. But like you're right, if they go on a good run, they proved last year, the fact they finished, top half last year, they proved what a good team they are. But I just think confidence that they've got at the minute where, they beat United and they won in the cup, didn't they? But their confidence is just shot to pieces. You can see it when they let a goal in. It's just, they just expect to lose. But no, it'd be interesting. And again, I think they're struggling not having their fans behind them because, going down to, Sheffield with the fans on your back, it's a lovely stadium. I've played there and it's great. we know what the sort of like the Yorkshire crowd are like. You know, they will G and they probably are that 12th man, like we were saying. But I doubt those fans really pushing them on. I just can't see them doing it. I honestly can't. I just can't see them going on that much. But I think hopefully they will. It'll be great. I mean, you sort of look at it. I don't know who you'd want to go down, but it'll be interesting. Happens.
Yeah,
I back Matt for sure. I think, you know, given Morgan's calculations, he's thinking 27 points is going to be enough to stay safe, which is never the case ever. I say 35 points this year, maybe even less. But moving forward and kind of looking at next season, you would maybe fancy Chris Wilder to get, to be maybe the best man and maybe one of a good team to go right back up. I mean, that's just what I see. Obviously, if they can keep the places together, obviously, keep the confidence high and look maybe longer term.
Yeah, definitely. I think what the discussion is, you guys are saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm just saying I think it's still possible. But I think what you guys are saying is you just think it's impossible, just not mathematically.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
I think there's a lot better topics that are a little bit more realistic to talk about than that.
Fair enough. So let's dive into the No Name football game, Matt. So let's get cracking. So I run the game and do the questions. Jovan is the commentator, and as I said, Dan is the player going up against you. It's
my interview for BBC London. So I'll see what I can do. But yeah. So and also not that any pressure, but I think only one guest so far has lost to a TFF member. Is that how it works?
Yeah. Theo Corbin, who lost, didn't he? 1-0.
Theo Corbin from Wolves lost. Yeah.
I think no one's won by 2 goals. I think it's all 1-0 or 2-1 wins, I think. Right. So let's get cracking. So it is time for the No Name football game. And it's Daniel for TFF versus Matt Lockwood. Very excited for this. Here we go. So Matt, your goalkeeper has the ball. So Dan right now is going to type what he wants to Jovan. So Jovan, just let me know when you have the answer.
Yep.
So Matt, tell me, do you want to play the ball out to your centre back, your left back, or your right back?
This is going to be obvious, but it's got to be the left back. They're always the best player on the pitch.
And he's
That's where I played Daniel. Come on. That's where I was always going to go, to the left back.
Daniel has read it all wrong and pressed the opposite side of the pitch. The ball is to the left back.
Okay, so Matt, your left back has the ball. So again, you can play it straight down to your left midfielder. You can play it into the middle, or you can switch the play to your right midfielder. What are you going to do?
Well, Daniel, have you ever seen me play? What I would do from there?
I've taken a good guess from your last. I've made a pretty good guess. Hopefully I'm right.
Right. Well, I would literally from there. I would hit a diagonal to the right winger, the right midfielder.
Oh,
absolute courage, and they get paid for it. The ball now is on to the right midfielder.
Okay, Matt.
Wow, the switch worked.
Yep. Well played. Good play. Okay. Smart. Long ball. Okay. So your right midfielder has the ball. Now we're going to play it into one of your attackers. So you're going to go down to your right winger. You're going to switch it again like Liverpool, or are we going to go straight into the centre forward, hit the target man?
I'm going straight through to the centre forward. He's in on goal.
And last-ditch defending as Daniel has a chance for an interception.
Thank God for that.
Cool and compact in the box. So now we have a chance of the first interception.
Okay.
Matt, you got to answer this question correctly.
So here's the question. Right. So Scottish football currently holds the record for the highest attendance in a domestic match in Europe. The record was set in 1937 when Celtic played Aberdeen at Hampden Park. But how many were in attendance on that day to the nearest 1,000? Is it A, 107,000? Is it B, 147,000? Or C, 177,000?
It's B, 147.
Wow.
Absolute heroics and confidence in that. He did not budge at all with that question, and he will have another chance to score.
Yep. So now the ball has successfully gone to your striker. Daniel missed out on the interception. So now we have a chance to score, and there will be yet again another question. So are you ready, Matt? Here we go.
Yep.
Mark Hughes once played 2 games in one day, one for his country, Wales, and for who else? Is it A, Barcelona? Is it B, Bayern Munich? Or C, Real Madrid?
This is obviously a trick question, but he played for Barcelona, didn't he? So I'll go Barcelona. I think I'm wrong, but didn't he only play for Barcelona?
Ball's in the air, and the header just goes off the post, and it will go out for a goal kick. Very close.
The correct answer was Bayern Munich, actually. He did play for Bayern Munich, yeah. Okay, so we still have some bit of time on the clock. So we probably have time for one more attack. So now Dan is going to attack you. And unless you can intercept the ball quickly, this may be the last chance of the first half. So here we go. So Daniel's goalkeeper now has the ball. So Daniel's just first going to type to Jovan where he wants to go.
Yeah, I'll wait for the...
Okay, so Matt, where are we pressing first? Are we pressing the left back, the right back, or the centre backs?
I think by Daniel's smile, I think he's gone to the left back.
Oh no. He sure has.
He got me. He knew.
Liverpool-like pressing and an automatic chance to win the ball back.
Daniel, your poker face is awful, by the way.
I know, it's absolutely shocking. I have to say.
Matt, are you a poker player?
I am, yeah. I do like a game of poker.
No, you can read me. You can read me.
Honestly, I've started playing the last year or so. I love poker. Oh my God. That's the thing I probably miss the most, but like after football. It's definitely obviously Leeds games. Second thing is just the poker night with the boys. Cannot beat it. And goals for that matter.
Yeah,
but
I used to play a lot of poker back in the day.
Oh, classic. Anyway, so a question for an immediate interception. Daniel, I've got to say,
Jesus Christ.
This is a shocking debut.
It's a debut. It's a poor debut for me, I must say.
It's a poor debut. You might have to rethink this. You might have to cancel the loan. Anyway, so who was the last team to win the English top flight with an English manager? Is it A, Blackburn Rovers? Is it B, Liverpool? Or is it C, Leeds United?
Blackburn.
I'm afraid it is incorrect. The actual correct answer is Leeds United in 1992. That was.
However, the ref makes the decisions that if you can tell us what year that was in, so what year Leeds United won the Premier League.
Good shout.
You'll have a chance to win the ball back again. So a second chance. Daniel fumbled the ball a little bit. What year did Leeds United win the English top flight? First division.
Didn't Morgan just say 1992?
Oh, did I say it? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yay!
We'll give it to him. That's shocking. That's shocking for Morgan. Shocking for Morgan, but we'll give it to him.
That's poor for me. Growing pains. We're calling it growing pains.
Shows I was listening though. That's the thing.
Exactly. Good listener. There you go.
It's in the detail. It's in
the rewards.
Do you know who the manager is?
Was it Howard Wilkinson?
Yes, it was. That is correct. So he's earned that right now. So that's fair enough. Yeah, amazing manager. But yeah, that was actually the last first division before it became the Premier League, in 93.
Right.
Interestingly enough.
Okay.
But so Matt now has the ball back, and since he now has it in
chance to score,
an immediate scoring chance. So we have yet again another question, and this will be the final action of the first half. Now that we have reached halftime. Here's a question. Right. Lionel Messi recently scored yet another free kick in La Liga. That makes it 38 goals from direct free kicks for Messi in La Liga. But how many does he have altogether for club and country? Is it A, 45, B, 55, or C, 65? A chance to score here.
I would say 45.
And chance after chance, unfortunately, nothing goes in the goal. And the right answer is 55. The ball goes off target, and another goal kick. That will round up the first half of play, 0-0.
Disappointing. It's a bit of a stalemate here. I mean, plenty of chances, but no goals as of yet. No goes as of yet. So yeah, that was the first half. So we'll come back to the second half later on in the episode. Hey guys, this is Morgan from the Footy Forum. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. That was only the first half of what we did with Matt Lockwood. It was just all too good, so we split up into 2 parts. So part 2 will be coming out this coming Sunday, which will be the 28th of February. And that will feature a bit more about kind of Matt's story himself. And also, of course, the second half of the No Name Football Game, which, let me promise you, is not one you want to miss. Probably the best half of the No Name Football Game we've ever had is that second half. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled, stay tuned, and we're looking forward to getting part 2 out with you very shortly. Have a good week, guys. Take care.